Good morning, all of you. In the last lecture, we have studied about the statistical physics means what, and after that, we have to consider the probability. One more important concept you have to study about the probability and some experiment performed according to the probability. Now, in this lecture, we have to study about the principle of equal periodic probability. What is principle of equal periodic probability? First of all, we have to consider for that when the coin is tossed, it might that a coin will be fall either head or tail. We have to consider the example of coin, and when coin is tossed, what will happen that it may be head or tail. This is the probability we have to consider. One more example for the probability. When the coin is tossed, either head or tail maybe occurs in the upper face. We have to consider. Similarly, we have to perform one more experiment for equal periodic probability. We have to consider one more box, and in that box we have a two compartment. One compartment is called as say X and another compartment is considered as say Y. And when we have to consider the compartment, and at the compartment we have to consider, that is we have to at some height we have to throw a coin or one ball in the compartment. At that time, what is the possibility of that ball is fall in the compartment say X or say compartment say Y? We have to consider here the size of the box is similar, that is dimension and all the things are similar. So we have to consider here, if we have a open box and two equal size of compartment, this is first compartment is say X and another compartment is say Y, and when the coin is thrown on the upward side, at that time it may be fall on X or it may be fall in the Y. At that time what we have to consider, that say, that is, if a open box with the two equal size of compartments say X and Y, and small particle is thrown from the large distance, then the probability of the particle falling to the compartment marked X is equals to probability that may fall into the say Y. Means we have probability of a coin fall in X is equals to probability of a particle which is falling in a Y are equal. Probability of a particle which may be fall in X or which may be fall in Y, that is equal. And from that we have to consider here, that is again there is a equal probability, but two compartments are unequal. This will not hold good. If the compartment size is equal, at that time it may be possible. But one compartment is very large and another compartment is very small. At that time it may not hold good. This is the condition of principle of equal periodic probability. And from this explanation, we have defined that this principle of assuming equal probability for event, this principle of assuming equal probability of events which are equally likely to occur, is known as principle of equal probability. Means particle which is falling in X compartment or particle may be falling into the Y compartment have equal probability. And that now principle of equal periodic probability. This principle of assuming equal probability for event which are equally likely to occur. Event which are equally likely to occur is known as principle of equal probability. Event may be, particle may be fall in X or it may be fall in Y. It has equal probability, equally likely to be occur. That is, we have to consider this P of X is equals to say P of Y. And this principle of equal probability we have to consider here. Principle of assuming equal probability for event which are equally likely to occur is known as principle of equal probability. This is the concept we have. And after that, we have to priori means something which exists in our mind and priori to be independently of the observation we are going to mark. And this principle is a fundamental basis of statistical mechanics. And this principle is the fundamental basis of statistical mechanics. This is called as a equally priori probability. Principle of equal priori probability. Principle of assuming. What we have to assuming? Probability of event which are equally likely to occur. Equally likely to occur in X or equally likely to occur in the Y. Principle of equally likely to occur in is known as the principle of equally priori probability. That is P of X equals to P of Y. And this fundamental principle is the basis of statistical mechanics. After that, we are going to study one more important article is say probability and frequency. Probability and frequency. Suppose we toss a coin n times. We have considered this coin and it can be tossed n times. We find that head maybe occurs h times, and here introduce a term frequency of event. Means we have to consider the coin is tossed 50 times. What is the probability of head maybe occurs at the top? That is, we have to consider say 1 by 2. When single we have to toss, it may be 1 by 2. But when n times we have to throw a coin and see the head may be occur at the top h times, means we have to say that 50 times coin may be tossed and head may be occur at the 10 times. Then we have to say at that time we have to introduce one more concept for that, that is a frequency. Suppose toss a coin say n times and find head appears h times. Here we introduce term frequency of event, and frequency of event means number of trials in which head occurs. Number of trials in which head occurs divided by total number of trials. Total number of trials. That is F is equals to say head is H upon number of trials is considered as say N. F is equals to say H by N. Head may occur H times and number of trials is N times. For example, coin toss 50 times, we have to consider thus if coin toss 50 times, head occur 10 times, coin may be tossed 50 times, head occurs maybe 10 times, head shows 10 times, then frequency of event is F is equals to head how many times? 10 times, and number of events, number of times coin tossed, that is say 50, and that is equals to 1 by 5, and that is equals to 0.2. 1 by 0 cancel, it gets 1 by 5, and first division is what? 0. 10, 5 to that's 10, that is frequency is what? 0.2. Frequency is considered as 0.2. From the classical definition of probability of occurrence of head is, from classical definition of probability, classical definition of a probability of head is equals to 0.5. Classical definition of probability of a head occurrence is considered as say 0.5 or 50%, or 50%. Definition of probability of head occurrence is say 0.5, or it may be considered as say 50%. Hence, conclude that frequency is not same to the probability. Frequency की आलेली 0.2, probability की आलेली 0.5, means they are not equal. Number of trials in which head occurs divided by total number of trials, and then we have to consider here the relation between frequency and probability. As the number of trials increase, the frequency of event tends to stabilize and gradually approach to a constant value known as probability of event, and different probability in terms of frequency we have to consider by the relation define probability in terms of frequency. N tends to 0, m by n. This is the relation. Define, we have to consider here, define probability in terms of frequency. Define probability in terms of frequency. Having relation is P is equals to limit n tends to 0, n tends to infinity, not 0 here, n tends to infinity, m by n. That is, m is considered as say, that is number of trials in which head occurs, and t is n is considered as total number of trials. And so these getting sufficiently accurate result, trial must be conducted until the ratio m by n is differ from one another a very small value. M by n ratio is differ from one another with a very small value. Up to that time we have to trial and trial, and so we have to consider these ratios are a very, very small value, and then we have to say that probability and frequency, they are having formula is considered as P is equals to limit n tends to infinity m by n. Frequency is defined as, what we have to define in the physics frequency, that thing is different here. Here we have to consider probability and frequency. Probability means what? A number of event, it is the ratio of number of event occurs to the total number of cases. Total number of event occurs in the cases divided by total number of cases. And here frequency means a number of trials in which head occurs. Number of trials in which head occurs to the total number of trials. This is the definition of frequency. F is equals to H by N. When the coin is tossed 50 times, head may occur. It may be, we have to consider here, 10 times. So the probable frequency of that case is considered at 0.2. But we have a basic classical definition of probability. We have to consider head may be occur is what? 0.5 or 50%. Hence, we conclude that frequency is not similar to the probability and define probability in terms of frequency. The relation is P is equals to limit as n tends to infinity m by n. And when we have to do these cases, number of times, n infinite times, at that time the ratio of m by n is a very, very small value, and that may be approached differ from one another by very small value, different from one another by very small value. So we have to say that probability and frequency are different things. Right? See here, first of all we have to consider about the principle of equal priori probability. For that we have to consider example of a coin. When coin is tossed, it may be head or tail occur. But for studying principle of equal priori probability, we have to consider one more example of a compartment. In that compartment, one box we have to consider here. In that box, two compartments of equal size, and we have we have to release one particle from some height, and what is the probability of falling that particle in compartment X or Y. So we have to say that the probability of X is equals to what? Probability of say Y. These are occur only when these compartments are similar. If the one compartment is very large and another is very small, what will happen that at that time it is not hold good, and hence we have to consider that this principle of a fundamental basis of statistical mechanics, and from that we have to define this principle of equal probability. The principle assuming equal probability for event, principle of assuming equal probability for event which are equally likely to occur. Events which are equally likely to occur, that is P of X is equals to say P of Y, and that is known as principle of equally probability, and this fundamental basis of a statistical mechanics. And after that we have to consider the condition for probability and frequency. For probability we have to consider when a coin is tossed, at that time head or tail may be occurs, and that it can be having probability say 1/2 or it is say 0.5. But when we have to consider a number of ways we have tossed the coin n times or m times, what will happen that, or we have to consider here 50 times coin may be tossed and head may occur at the top say 10 times and tail may be say 40 times. So frequency means what? A number of trials in which head occurs. Frequency is defined as the ratio of number of trials in which head occurs in the top. Number of trials in which head occurs, number of trials in which head occurs divided by total number of trials. Means we have to say that F is equals to H by N. Tail probability, F is equals to T by N. And coin is tossed 50 times, head may occur 10 times. So the frequency is 0.2. In classical definition, we have probability, we have to consider that. Say 0.5 means we have conclude that frequency is not similar to the probability, and define probability in terms of frequency having a formula hp is equals to limit as n tends to infinity m by n, and this ratio of m by n is differ, and it is when trials are takes infinite times, at that time it is very ratio is very small, and it is closer to each other. We have from one another is a very small value, differ value very small one another. This is the way we have to explain about the probability and frequency. Okay, write down all things. Thank you.